Hello everyone and welcome to Data Science Part 2 video with R on Intellipaat. Now before we discuss our today's agenda, do not forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell icon. So first we are going to discuss about inbuilt functions in R. Then we are going to learn about flow control statements. Moving ahead, we are also going to discuss about selector statements. And at the end, we are going to conclude our sessions by discussing user-defined functions.
So these are some of the inbuilt functions. So let's go to RStudio and work with them. So we'll head back to RStudio. Let me just have a glance at the dataset first. So I'll type out view of customer churn. Right, so this is a dataset. So we'll start off by understanding the structure of this dataset. So for that, I'll be using the structure function str, and I'll give in the name of the dataset, which is customer churn. Right, so this function gives me the entire structure of this dataset. So this basically tells me that I'm working with a dataset where there are 7,043 observations of 21 variables. Or in other words, there are 7,043 rows and 21 columns. And these are all of the columns over here. So we have customer ID, gender, senior citizen, online backup, streaming movies, churn, and so on. Right, so now, followed by the name of the column, we also have the data type or the class of the column. Right, so over here, we see that customer ID is of type factor. Gender again is of type factor, senior citizen is of integer, and these are the values. So the values are either zeros and ones, right? And over here, multiple lines is of type factor with 3 levels. So these are the 3 factor levels over here. So it could be either no, yes, or no phone service. And then similarly, we have the internet service with the 3 factor levels. So it could either be DSL, fiber optic, or no. Right, again, so for contract, we have 3 factor levels, which could be either month to month or 1 year or 2 years. Right, so we have found out all of this with the help of the structure function. All right, now we'll go ahead and implement the second inbuilt function. So we'll be using the head function for this. Right, so head function basically gives us the top 6 records of the dataset. Right, so I will just go ahead and give the name of the dataset over here, head of customer churn. Right, so this has given me the first 6 records. So we have the first 6 records for all of the columns over here. All right, now if I want to have a look at the first 10 records, all I'd have to do is give a number over here. So now I have the first 10 records of the dataset. So similarly, if I just want to have a look at the first 2 records, I'll just give the number 2 over here. Right, so I can have a look at the first 2 records of the dataset. So similar to head, we have another function called tail. So tail function gives the last 6 records of the dataset. So I'll go ahead and give our customer churn dataset over here. So you can see the row numbers over here. So they start from 7,038 and they end at 7,043. So basically this tail function gives us the last 6 records of the dataset. Now similarly, if I just want the last 1 record of this dataset, I'll just give the number 1. Right, so this is our last record. So row number 7,043. Similarly, if we want the last 10 records, I'll put 10 over here. Right, so it starts from 7,034 to 7,043. So these are the last 10 records of the dataset. Right, so we are done with head, we're done with tail. Now we'll use nRow and ncol to find out the number of rows and number of columns. Right, so I'll type nRow and I'll give in the name of the dataset. Right, so with this we find out that there are 7,043 rows in this column. Similarly, I will type ncol and I'll give the name of the dataset customer churn. Now we find out that there are 21 columns in this dataset. Right, so now we have some numerical columns in our dataset. So we have monthly charges and total charges. Now what if I would want to find out the mean values or the maximum values of monthly charges? So let's go ahead and do that. So let's say I would want to find out the mean of monthly charges. So all I need to do is type out mean over here and then give the column over here. So I'll type customer churn dollar. I'll select the column which is monthly charges, right? So the mean of monthly charges for all of the customers is around $64. Similarly, if I'd want to find out the minimum of monthly charges, I'll type out min. I'll give the name of the data set, and then I'll type out monthly charges again over here. Right, so the minimum monthly charges are $18. Similarly, if I want to find out the maximum of monthly charges, I'll type out max. I'll give the name of the dataset, which is customer churn, followed by the name of the column, which is monthly charges. Right, so the maximum is $118. So similarly, what I'll do is I'll find out the mean, max, and min for the total charges as well. Now we also have the range function, which automatically gives us the minimum and maximum values. So I'll give range over here. I'll type the name of the data set, which is customer churn, and I'll select the column which is monthly charges. Right, so range gives me the range of all of the values. So the minimum value is 18 and the maximum value is 118. Now, so let's say there's a lucky draw going on, and we are selecting 5 customers randomly to give a discount. So we can use a sample function for that. So with the help of sample function, I'll be selecting some 5 random customer IDs. So let me go ahead and do that. I'll type sample, and what I'll do is I'll select the customer ID column and I'll give the number 5. That is, from the entire data set, we are selecting 5 random customer IDs. Right, so these values which we see over here, so these are the customer IDs. So this is the first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So this has randomly given us 5 customer IDs from around 7,043 entries. So again, let's say if I would want around 20 random customer IDs, I'll give the number to be 20 over here. Right, so these are all the 20 customer IDs. Now next, if you would want to find out the distribution of some categorical variables, then we can use the table function. So over here we see that we have a lot of factors over here. So gender is a factor column, partner is a factor column, internet service is a factor column. So most of these are actually factor columns. So now if we have a lot of factor columns, we can use a table function to find out the distribution. So now let's say for this gender column, I would want to find out the number of female customers and also the number of male customers. So all I'd have to do is use a table function for this. So I'll type out table, I'll give the name of the data set, and I'll just select the column over here, which is gender. Right. So this basically tells me that there are around 3,488 female customers and 3,555 male customers. Right. So similarly, if I want to find out the distribution for internet service, I'll use the table function again. I'll give the name of the data set, and then I'll give the column name, which is internet service. Right. So around 2,421 customers use DSL, and 3,096 customers use fiber optic, and there are around 1,526 customers who don't use any sort of internet service. Right, now so let's say we would want to find out the contract of the customers. I'll again use a table function, and I'll type the name of the data set followed by the column. Right, so there are 3,875 customers who have month-to-month contract, 1,473 customers who have a contract on yearly basis, 1,695 customers who have the contract on a 2-year basis. Right, so next, finally, we'll use a table function on the payment method column. Again, I'll type a table over here. Right, I'll give the name of the dataset, which is customer churn, and I'll select the payment method column. Right, so around 1,544 customers do it via bank transfer, 1,522 customers paid by credit card, and these are the rest of the customers who pay via electronic check and mail check. Now these flow control statements basically help us to control the flow of execution. So in general, the statements are executed from top to bottom. But with the help of flow control statements, we can manipulate the order of execution. So these are some of the flow control statements over here. If else, and switch are something known as selector statements. Then we have repeat, for, and while, which are looping statements. We also have some jump statements like continue and break. So let's have a closer look at selector statements. As the name suggests, the selector statements help us to select or manipulate data on the basis of a condition, such as if it rains, we'll not play football, or if you're sick, you'll not eat ice cream. So we'll just go ahead and start working with the selector statements. Right, so I'll start off and have a quick glance at our customer churn dataset. I will type view of customer churn, and we have our dataset right in front of us. Now I will start with the if condition, and I will check if this cell over here, the value in this cell is female, and if the test condition comes out to be true, then I'll change this value to be male. So let me go ahead and do that. Right, so I will type if, I will give the name of the dataset, which is customer churn, and the column is gender, and the row number is obviously 1. So from this dataset, I am checking if the value in this column is female. So if this is equal to female, then I will give some action over here. So what I'll do is I'll change that value to be male. I'll give the name of the dataset. I will select the column, and in this column, right, so this is cell number 1, and over here I'll change the value from female to male. Right, so initially we had female over here. Now let me copy and paste it over here. Now let me have a glance at the customer dataset again. Right, so we have changed this value from female to male with the help of the if condition. Right, similarly we'll use the if clause again to check if the tenure over here, so we'll take this cell value over here. So if the tenure is, let's say, greater than 62 months, then what I'll do is I'll give this customer a discount of 10%. Right, so over here I see the monthly charges, and over here we have the customer. So this is customer who is present at row number 10, and I will give this guy a discount of 10% for his monthly charges. Right, so let me go ahead and create another if clause over here. So I will type if customer churn dollar tenure is greater than 50, and this cell number over here is 10. Now this is very important, right? So this is cell number 10. If that value is greater than 50, then what I'll do is I will give a corresponding discount in monthly charges. Cell number is 10. So customer churn dollar monthly charges, cell number 10, and I will give this guy a discount of 10%, and that is why I am multiplying this value with 0.9 over here. So you see, we have taken out this cell value and I'm multiplying that value with 0.9, and that is how this guy will get a discount of 10%, and I am storing back the result into the same cell. Let me copy it and paste it over here. So let's just have a quick glance. So the initial value is 56. Now after modification, let's have a look at the monthly charges. Right, so initially it was 56. Then after using the if clause, we have changed his monthly charges to 50 by giving him a discount of 10%. Right, so this was if. Now we'll go ahead and also implement the if else clause. So we'll use the churn column for that, and we'll be using this cell. So let's say if we'll just check if the value over here is no, or in other words, it basically means that the customer will not churn out, or the customer will be using the same network, then we'll just print that thank you for using our network. And if this is yes, then we will print please give us a feedback on how we can improve our network. So let's go ahead and do that. Right, so if customer churn dollar churn, and this is row number 1 is double equal to yes. And if this comes out to be true, I just need to print, please give us a feedback on how we can improve our network. Right. Else I will print thank you for using our network. Let me paste it over here and let me see what will be the result. So we get thank you for using our network because this customer does not churn out. Alright, so we are done with if, we are done with if else. Now we'll work with the third selector statement, which is switch. So with the help of switch, I will give this guy a discount on monthly charges with respect to the internet service. Let's say I will take this customer and I will say if this guy uses internet service of DSL, then I'll be giving him a discount of 10%. And if he uses internet service of fiber optic, then I'll be giving him a discount of 20%. So let me go ahead and do this using the switch statement. So I'll delete all of this. I will type switch over here. So over here, I need to give the object. So object again. Now, since this is actually a factor, I will change this to a character vector. So I will type as dot character of, and I'll give the column over here, which will be customer churn dollar internet service. Right. Now, the first case would be DSL. Whereas if the customer's internet service is DSL, then I will give this guy a discount of 10%. Right, again, so let me have a glance at the cell numbers. This will be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Right, so over here, let me just give down the cell number, which is 5. So what I'll do is I'll select customer churn dollar monthly charges, cell number is 5, and I'll give this guy a discount of 10%. I'll give a comma. Now I'll give the second case, and the second case is if this guy uses fiber optic. So if this guy uses fiber optic, then I will give this guy a discount of 20%. So customer churn dollar monthly charges, cell number 5, and 20% discount. So I'd have to multiply this value by 0.8. So let me go to monthly charges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this was the initial value 70. Right. Now I will select all of this, paste it over here, and I'll store the result back to the same cell. So this will be customer churn dollar monthly charges, cell number is 5. Let me have a glance at the data set now. Let us see the result. So we have our monthly charges. So initially it was 70, and after giving this guy a discount of 20%, his monthly charges came down to 56. Right, so we are also done with switch. Then we have looping statements. So these looping statements basically keep on repeating a certain action, like keep on printing your name for 1,000 times, or keep playing the music for the next 1 hour. Right, so let's go ahead and work with this looping statements. So I'll start with for loop. Now we have this gender column over here, and I'll use the for loop to count the number of male customers. Right, so I will type for, and over here I'll give a variable, and I'll name this variable to be I. This is the vector. So I'll give a range over here. So for I n 1 is to n row of customer churn. So that is, this loop will run starting from 1 to 7043. Right. Now in this entire loop, I need to check number of male customers. So for that, I will use the if condition. So if customer churn $gender is double equal to male. Now I will create another variable over here and give this to be 0. So if customer churn $gender, again I need to give the cell which is I over here. So if customer churn $gender, I is double equal to male, then I will increment the count value. So count will be count plus 1. Right, so what is happening is initially I value is 1. So now this will be evaluated to true. And again over here I am checking if customer churn $gender, the first cell value, if this is equal to male, then I'll increment count with 1. Again this loop will come over here, I value will be 2. Over here we'll check if customer churn $gender 2. So this is male again, so count's value will be increased to 2. Similarly then I's value will be 3, and we'll check the cell number 3 over here. Cell number 3 is male again, and again so the count value will be incremented and it'll be 3 now. So this is how this loop will go on. So let me print this over here. Let me print count. So we see that there are 3,556 male customers. So let me verify this with the help of table function. So I'll type table of customer churn $gender. And we see that this is actually true. There are 3,556 male customers. Right, so this was for loop. Now we'll go ahead and understand the while loop. Now with the help of while loop, we will get a count of the number of customers whose payment method is electronic check. Right, so now I will delete all of this. I will give a new variable which is I is equal to 0. I will create the while loop over here. I'll give a condition. So I will check if I is less than n row of customer churn. That is, if 1 is less than 7043. So this actually needs to be less than or equal to 7043. And if this is true, I'll go ahead and check my condition. If customer churn $payment method, here I'll give the cell number which will be I. So if this is equal to electronic check, then I will increase the value of count with 1. So count will be count plus 1. Right, so after doing this, I will also increment the value of I. So I will be I plus 1. So let's understand this properly. So I am checking if 1 is less than or equal to 7043, which is evaluated to true. And since this is evaluated to true, then I am using the if condition to check if the cell number 1, the payment method is electronic check. So since this is electronic check, the value of count is incremented. Now after this if condition is done, I am incrementing the value of I over here. Now I's value will be 2. Then I'll check if the value over here is electronic check or not. Similarly, this loop will continue on. So let me go ahead and select all of this and print it over here. I'll type count. Now let me verify this. So table of customer churn $payment method. So see that the number of customers whose payment method is 2365, and over here we have got the count to be 2365. Right, so we are done with while loop. Then we have user defined functions. So these basically help us to modularize our entire program. Let's say if we wanted to find out the minimum and maximum values of every column. So all we need to do is create two functions, min and max, which can be applied on all the columns. So let's go to RStudio and create some user defined functions. Right, now again I'll create a user defined function to get a count of number of male customers. I will name the function to be gender count. Now this is the syntax of a user defined function. So I will type function, and this is our parameter over here. Right, Now inside this, I need to write the entire code to find out the count of the number of male customers. Right, so I'll be using the for loop again to do that. So I will type for I in 1:to length of x. Right, and over here I will check if x of I is double equal to male, and if it is equal to male, then I'll say count is equal to count plus 1. Again, I will create a new local variable over here, count, whose initial value is supposed to be 0. Right, so let's go through this function again. So this is the syntax of a function, and I am naming this function to be gender count. So over here I will send this gender column as the parameter. Now once I do that, I have initialized local variable where count is equal to 0, and over here the loop starts. So for I in 1:to length of x, so length of x, that would be the length of this column, which would be 7043. So this loop will go from 1 to 7043. Right, and inside this over here we check for each and every cell. So if x of I, so for first iteration it will be x of 1, so we'll check for this cell. So if this value is equal to male, then count's value is incremented by 1. Again, i's value is 2, and if the value in the cell is male, count's value is also incremented by 1, and this goes on. After the entire loop is done, I'll also print the value of count over here. Alright, so I will select all of this and I will paste it over here. So we have our function to be ready. Right, so gender underscore count, and I will send the gender column as the parameter. Right, so we get a value of 3556. Let me verify this again. Table of customer churn $gender. Right, so we see that number of male customers is 3556. So now the best part of functions is we just need to make a small change over here if we need to find out the number of female customers. So all I'll do is I will change this to be female, and I can pass in the same column to find out the count of number of female customers. Right, so I will use this function again, gender count, and I'll say customer churn $gender. I'm sending this as the parameter. Now let us see the count. Let me verify this. So I will type table of customer churn $gender. And over here we see that the number of female customers are 3487, and that is the same value which we've got with the function. Right, so this was an implementation of user-defined function. And this brings us to the end of the session. Thanks for attending, and let's meet in the next class.
If you want to make a career in data science, then Intellipaat has IIT Madras Advanced Data Science and AI Certification Program. This course is of very high quality and cost effective, as it is taught by IIT professors and industry experts.